The radical left's agendas are attacking your values. The conservatives like you haven't forgotten what this country was built upon. My friends, the Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard, to represent your values in the D.C. swamp. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the struggle because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Something remarkable happened at a hearing today. I know that's unusual. Most people won't pick it up. That's okay. I do. Very remarkable. As a matter of fact, we're going to lead off with it. And it's not the Robert Kennedy hearing, although we want to deal with that too, how the Democrats didn't even let the man finish a thought. And but I want to get into some of what was done here with respect to this debate that took place between Ted Cruz and Tim Kaine. It wasn't really a debate. Tim Kaine had left the room, but nonetheless. Let's see here, Mr. Producer. I know I just saw your Tim Kaine cut. All right, here we are. So they're at this hearing today, and Tim Kaine announces, well, rather than me tell you, you got to listen to this. Listen very carefully. Cut 6, go.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it because they believe that they understand what natural rights are from their creator. So the statement that our rights do not come from our laws or our governments is extremely troubling. I think the motto over the Supreme Court is equal justice under law, the oath that you and I take, pledge to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, not arbitrarily defined natural rights.
This is stunning. Anybody who's listened to the show for 30 seconds knows how preposterous this is. I'm going to let Ted Cruz provide his answer, which he did. He came into the hearing room. Kaine had already left. And I want to elaborate on this myself. But here's Ted Cruz at the hearing. Cut 7, go.
I would actually encourage observers to go back and listen to what Senator Kaine said, because I have to say it I think was disturbing and showed much of where today's Democrat Party has gone wrong. So Senator Kaine said in this hearing that he found it a radical and dangerous notion that you would say our rights came from God and not from government. I just walked into the hearing as he was saying that, and I almost fell out of my chair. Because that radical and dangerous notion, in his words, is literally the founding principle upon which the United States of America was created. And if you do not believe me, and you made reference to this, Mr. Barnes, then you can believe perhaps the most prominent Virginian to ever serve, Thomas Jefferson, who wrote in the Declaration of Independence, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator, not by government, not by the Democratic National Committee, but by God, with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." I have to say it is stunning to me that the principle that God has given us natural rights is now deemed by Democrats some radical and dangerous notion. Mr. Jefferson was right when he wrote those words. Government exists to protect those rights. But slavery was not okay when U.S. law allowed it. It was wrong then, it is wrong now, it is always wrong.
It is stunning that a United States senator, and not just from any state, from the Commonwealth of Virginia, would make the statement he made, that rights come from government. Anybody who believes that is a Marxist and a buffoon. Now let's break this down. Those of you who have on power know about this already and listen to this program, but it's certainly worthy of emphasizing. Unalienable rights. That's what it says in the Declaration. What does that mean? That you have certain rights from God that are unalienable. There are certain truths that are eternal. Again, I write about this on Power. Tim Kaine rejects the entire founding of the American experiment. The entire founding of the American experiment. He thinks equality, the idea of equality, comes from government. The idea of liberty comes from government. No, that's not where it comes from. Here's what he won't say. It comes from the Judeo-Christian belief system. I've explained that Islamism, as others have pointed out who are Muslim, that Islamism, radical Islamism, is stuck in the 7th century. Hasn't gone through the Reformation. He rejects the Enlightenment. So when Tim Kaine talks about Sharia law, and this is the problem with Sharia law, he's right. But he completely rejects the American founding, which is based on the sovereignty of God, and that sovereignty which is birth to his children on earth. And then the question is, what does all that mean? Which, again, I explain in the book, and I've spent 3.5 months talking about it here. This should shock the hell out of you. And yet it is, in fact, as Ted Cruz says, illustrative of the Democrat Party, a party that clearly rejects America and the American founding. This is why they have no problem with the 1619 Project and no problem destroying our monuments. This is why the Democrat Party is the house of Marxism and Islamism, among other isms. This is why. Tim Kaine doesn't even comprehend how America came to be, or he rejects it, one or the other, both of which are damning. Damning. Your rights come before a government. the idea of free will and liberty came before there was a government in this country. This clown has it backwards. He speaks like the Marxist. And it's his position that is akin to Sharia law. Except his God doesn't come from the Quran. It comes from his own mind. From his own mind. This is why these Democrats are egomaniacal, narcissistic, power-hungry, because they believe they are in charge of determining what your fundamental liberties and rights are. Now, they can destroy them. That's why I wrote the book On Power. But they don't have the slightest idea, or they completely reject the notion that this is bigger than them. Bigger than them. Sharia law is nothing like the law in a constitutional republic. Notice we talk about Judeo-Christian values and morals and beliefs, but we don't talk about Judeo-Christian law. There is no law. There's belief, there's faith, there's values, there's morality, but there is no law. In Sharia, there's law, the most minute law. The imposition of that law on all people, regardless of their faith, or any faith or no faith. That's not Judaism and Christianity. Tim Kaine is a coward. He's a fraud. He's a low IQ moron who's been in government forever. Here's a guy that was Attorney General of Virginia, Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Governor of Virginia, a United States Senator now going on I don't know how many decades. And he either doesn't know or doesn't believe in the most fundamental, core, founding principle of our country. That your rights come from him. He's in the government. Your rights come from him. We wonder why so many people are utterly illiterate when it comes to the founding, utterly illiterate when it comes to the Declaration and the Constitution. How many members of Congress think like this man? Either because they're utterly stupid and illiterate, or their ideology is such. I dare say many, particularly in the Democrat Party. More when I return. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You know, you think I write these books, they don't have any purpose. They certainly do. And if you're in Costco or you're in Walmart or Barnes & Noble and you walk by and you see the book, and I don't need that book, I really think you ought to give it a second thought, really. I have an entire chapter, chapter 5, on rights. I begin with the premise underscored by the Declaration of Independence. I'm quoting that individual and human rights, liberty, and equality predate governments because they do not originate from governments. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Unalienable rights endowed by your Creator. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Tim Kaine turns it completely on its head. Mr. Producer, I want to play Tim Kaine again now that I've read this from the Declaration, and then we're going to continue. Go ahead.
The notion that rights don't come from laws and don't come from the government, but come from the Creator, that's what the Iranian government believes. It's a theocratic regime that bases its rule on Shia law and targets Sunnis, Baha'is, Jews, Christians, and other religious minorities. And they do it.
The significance and magnitude of these two straightforward and concise sentences in the Declaration are impossible to overstate. Rights, or moral truths, are God-given through natural law and therefore are transcendent and universal. Through right reason, man discovers these truths, was innately aware of them. Thomas Jefferson, who authored the original draft of the Declaration, was certainly not alone in this view, was the collective belief of the founders, including George Mason, the primary author of the Virginia Declaration of Rights, Benjamin Franklin, the primary author of the Pennsylvania Declaration of Rights, John Adams and Sam Adams, the primary authors of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, and others. Now, the 19th century philosophers who informed the Democrat Party, its progressive American Marxist ideologues, and their Western contemporaries are, among others, Hegel and Marx, of course, Woodrow Wilson. His influence as a scholar and president was enormous. Their views were contemptuous of the foundational principles relied on in the Declaration and the consensus view of the founders. So as you can see, Tim Kaine is a Marxist. He's an American Marxist. He ascribes to Woodrow Wilson's view. And so I say, clearly, the basis for America's founding and the ideology of the American Marxists are utterly incompatible. Indeed, this is at the heart of the competition between governing power, or more accurately, the power struggle that exists today and has for 100 years or more. That is, two opposite and irreconcilable worldviews about the individual and humanity competing for power. And there you had it, in the voice of Tim Kaine and the voice of Ted Cruz. There is no liberty without rights, and rights precede government. Rights precede government. Whatever the government is, you have rights as a human being. Tim Kaine doesn't believe that. Whatever rights you have are a privilege you get from government. If that's the case, we are in very, very serious trouble. This is a stupid man who doesn't even understand our history and our founding. I'll be right back. America needs patriots who know our founding principles and who can stand by those principles today. That's why the Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy, to prepare conservatives like you with the additional knowledge needed to stand firm in your beliefs in a world far too often unwelcoming to conservatives. All Heritage Academy fellows learn from the country's leading experts through policy lectures and live Q&A sessions. Speakers include Victor Davis Hanson, Mark Morgan, Dr. Kevin Roberts, and many more. Fellows also interact with other conservatives across the country in one of three tracks: high school track, college track, or the Professionals and Patriots track. I wish every American could join this 8-week online fellowship. But the next round of applications close on September 21. So please go to heritage.org/Levin to apply today. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. Join the Heritage Academy to help restore America. Learn more at heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/LEVIN. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, the real American rebel. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, what we're talking about here is Tim Kaine, basically, is comparing the American system, which was founded in such genius, to Sharia law. That's what he's doing. He's so stupid. He's such an ignoramus. That's what he's doing. It's quite shocking. This man ran for vice president of the United States with Hillary Clinton. With Hillary Clinton. And he thinks he's godlike. And apparently all these Democrats do. They think they're godlike. They decide what your rights are. And now you know why I've said that they really are the epitome of and define negative power, governmental power. They are power hungry. Power hungry. Chapter 3 on positive power, I write, positive power starts from an altogether different premise than negative power. God is the sovereign. And through God his children, that is, the individual and the people, are sovereign. As power properly understood and exercised in the context of government is about the well-being of the people, not the rulers. The people are the sovereign, not the governing authority. And importantly, the belief in God-given eternal truths, natural law, and unalienable rights is the basis of a moral and virtuous society that transcends any ruling class. Tim Kaine is the epitome of what I'm condemning. One's approach to life and role in society involves practices and decisions and so forth that you make, and I discussed that at some length. The founders did not believe they owed their origin to men and through men, but to a transcendent providence, that is, to a higher source than man, God. Faith was fundamental to America's founding. Christianity was and is our nation's dominant religion. And without Judaism, there would be no Christianity. Together, Judeo-Christian values and beliefs redounded throughout our society from the earliest days of the colonists and still do today. That is, before there was any government, even colonial governments. So how is it that we didn't wind up as an Islamist hellhole? How's that possible? Well, I said Judeo-Christian belief system, did I not? I said the Enlightenment, did I not? Tim Kaine won't say that, will he? Because to say it is to make abundantly clear that the Democrat Party, the American Marxists, the Islamists who they now open their tent to, are completely at odds with Americanism. Completely. So as I said, either Tim Kaine is truly a stupid, stupid man, and that's possible. It's not a defense, by the way, for him. Or he's a true believer. Now, maybe Tim Kaine's not aware about this, but the United States is about the most religiously tolerant nation on earth. Fact. Matters not at all what one does or does not believe to enjoy the freedoms and security that American society offers and which are explicitly protected by the Constitution. That's right. As America became a nation of United States, it was never intended to be, nor would it ever become, a fundamentalist religious state or theocracy, as one sees throughout the Muslim world and elsewhere. It was never to be a repressive religious state that smothers alternative religious beliefs, or a state that punished or silenced non-believers, atheists, or agnostics. On the contrary, early on, religious tests and requirements that existed in some of the colonies would quickly disappear. Why? Well, among other reasons, Judaism and Christianity do not seek to compel, let alone demand, doctrinal purity. But he can't say that because he's a radical left Democrat. The distinction recognized in American society between the relationship of faith in the individual, faith in the community, and faith in the actual operation of government. In short, faith, properly understood, creates a spiritual, moral, and psychological foundation which affects how the individual lives his life. In America, it is typically a moderating force. Mr. Producer, I want you to send one of these books to Tim Kaine. Actually, you know what? I got to sign a book. I'll send it to him myself. I feel like writing, "Dear Senator, read this book, you damn moron." But, you know, they'd probably send the Capitol Police after me. Even though he is a damn moron. It's really quite incredible. And yet you heard it from his mouth. His mouth. Unalienable rights, the right to life. Did government give us that right? No. No. The right to life. It doesn't mean that all regimes adhere to it. As a matter of fact, many regimes don't adhere to it. Many regimes don't adhere to it. Well, I've spent the first 40 minutes of this program addressing it. I could spend another 40 days on it, but there are other things I want to get to. But Tim Kaine is a prime example of the problem. Shocking as it is. But I've written about it in On Power. And those of you who've acquired a copy, open it up. Take a look. Read it. Because before Tim Kaine opened his big mouth, I wrote the book. And I'm right about these people. I'm absolutely right about these people. All right, let's move on. 10 judges tell NBC News the Supreme Court needs to explain its rulings better, with some urging Chief Justice John Roberts to do more to defend the judiciary against external criticism. Now, this is extraordinary, and it's extraordinary because we've never had a judiciary that is this radical at the lower court levels and at the appellate court levels. We've never had one that is this radical. Federal judges are frustrated with the Supreme Court. Look how NBC writes this, Lawrence Hurley, whoever that is. Federal judges are frustrated with the Supreme Court for increasingly overturning lower court rulings involving the Trump administration with little or no explanation. There's been a lot of explanation. With some worried the practice is undermining the judiciary at a sensitive time. Some judges believe the Supreme Court, and in particular Chief Justice Roberts, could be doing more to defend the integrity of their work as President Trump and his allies harshly criticize those who rule against him, as violent threats against judges are on the rise. Violent threats against judges are on the rise. Violent threats against Donald Trump have been carried out. In rare interviews with NBC News, a dozen federal judges, it's not 10, it's a dozen, appointed by Democratic and Republican presidents, including Trump, and serving around the country, pointed to a pattern they say has recently emerged. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? If they don't go on the record specifically with their names, and as I'm looking through here, I'm not finding any, Mr. Producer, not one. And yet they say judges appointed by including Donald Trump. I have no idea if that's true. I would love to know the names of these judges, but they don't provide a single one. Cowards all. Lower court judges are handed contentious cases, now they're lecturing us, involving the Trump administration. They painstakingly research the law to reach their rulings. No, they don't. No, they don't. When they go against Trump administration officials and allies, criticize the judges in harsh terms. You know, this is just shocking to me. You've heard me criticize these judges in harsh terms, and I explain in great detail why. Great detail. And then the Supreme Court, in emergency ruling, swiftly rejects the judges' decisions with little to no explanation. They don't need a lot of explanation. But they have provided explanation. This is extraordinary. First, we have a senator, comes from the Commonwealth of Virginia, who's a moron or worse. And now we have at least 12 federal judges whose names are not noted in this article who are attacking the Supreme Court majority. 10 of the 12 judges who spoke to NBC News said the Supreme Court should better explain those rulings, noting that the terse decisions leave lower court judges with little guidance of how to proceed. That is a lie. They know how to proceed. They know they're activists on the lower courts. It's inexcusable, a judge said of the Supreme Court justices. They don't have our backs. They don't exist to have your backs, you jackasses. They exist to uphold the Constitution. This isn't a fraternity. Apparently it is, but it's not supposed to be. Having the backs of lower court judges because they're lower court judges? Judges are increasingly targeted, with some facing bomb threats, swattings, and other... It's not the fault of the U.S. Supreme Court. I wonder how many of the conservative justices have had their lives threatened. We know Kavanaugh has. But what does that have to do with anything? And so what this propagandist, pretend reporter at this pretend news organization, NBC News, is horrendous. What they're trying to do is paint the majority on the Supreme Court in the most negative way possible, that the criticism of these activist radical left-wing judges is causing death threats. With tension so high, four of the judges said they believe the Supreme Court, and specifically Roberts, the head of the judiciary, should do more to defend the courts. They're focused on Roberts because they know he's influenced by the press. The Supreme Court, a second judge said, is effectively assisting the Trump administration in undermining the lower courts, leaving district and appeals court judges thrown under the bus. They are overruling in some instances, in many instances, these lower courts, because these lower courts are out of control. It's not a matter of throwing them under the bus. Not all judges who were interviewed shared that view. Some were more reluctant to criticize the justices. A judge appointed by President Barack Obama said that while the Supreme Court could do more to explain itself, some lower court judges have been out of line and blocking Trump's policies. How do you like that? But you got to go halfway through the damn article. Certainly there's a strong sense in the judiciary among the judges ruling on these cases that the court's leaving them out to dry. They're partially right to feel this way, but the judge added, the whole Trump derangement syndrome is a real issue. As a result, judges are mad at what Trump is doing or the manner he's going about things. They are sometimes forgetting to stay in their lane. Now, I wonder if that Obama judge, I'd love to know who it is, God bless him or her, has now created death threats, Mr. Producer. I would urge the U.S. Supreme Court majority not to be influenced by this. This is a setup piece by the NBC News radical left-wing reporter who's pushing an agenda, as they always are. As they always are. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. You want to wonder why Jamie Raskin won't come on this show? Now you know. Stick with me. Page 118 on On Power. Tell me if Tim Kaine doesn't sound like Karl Marx from the Communist Manifesto. Quote, says Marx, the selfish misconceptions that induce you to transform into eternal laws of nature and of reason the social forms springing from your present mode of production and form of property, historical relations that rise and disappear in the progress of production. The misconception you share with every ruling class that has preceded you. What you see clearly in the case of ancient property, what you admit in the case of feudal property, you are, of course, forbidden to admit in the case of your own bourgeois form of property. And he dismisses the Declaration. He condemns the whole idea of eternal truths and natural law. And this is why I wrote this book, An American Marxism. Because Tim Kaine, he's such a jackass he may not even know it, speaks like Karl Marx wrote. And the vast majority of Democrats do in the House and in the Senate. This is why I say, please stop calling them democratic socialists. Please stop calling them progressives. Call them Marxists. The president calls them Marxists. I started it on Fox. Call them, and on this show, Marxists. They reject this. It's also why when Barack Obama would quote the Declaration of Independence, he would purposely misquote it by leaving out references to God. And again, you don't have to believe in God, or maybe you're not sure about God. That's up to you. That's your deal. But that's not the deal of the founding. And it has nothing to do with Sharia law and Islamism. And you just had a United States senator compare Thomas Jefferson to an Islamist, to the whole American experiment, an experiment in self-rule, an experiment in human sovereignty. Compare it to Islamism because of his utter ignorance and contempt for the American founding. A complete, in one word, putz. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Tremendous Life, Liberty, and Levin Saturday and Sunday. Saturday we have Gianna Caldwell, whose younger brother was murdered in Chicago, to talk about Chicago, the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois, and what he thinks of what they refuse to do and the language that they're using. And Ben Shapiro, our friend Ben Shapiro. We're going to have both as guests Saturday's Life, Liberty, and Levin. Set your DVR now, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It won't hurt. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, set your DVR. Then on Sunday, we're going to have Mark Thiessen and the great Senator Tom Cotton. We're going to get into judiciary. We're going to get into Russia and China. And I hope you'll participate. So set your DVRs. I dare you. Set your DVRs 8 p.m. Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Sunday for Life, Liberty, and Levin on Fox News Channel. I know you're going to love it. This guy, Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell benefited from the Republican Party for decade after decade after decade. He's the longest-serving majority leader in the history of the Senate, either party. He ruled with an iron fist. He would threaten members. They would call me and tell me their seniority, their committee seats, their legislation, if they didn't fall into line. Like so many things, Donald Trump turned that inside out. Mitch McConnell was not the leader of the Republican Party. Donald Trump was and is. It's something that he cannot bear. It's something he cannot bear, and people like him, the old Republican establishment. And so he's out there. He's done. He should have retired a long time ago. You know, you reach a certain point, my God. Or resigned once he fell ill. I've said it to the Democrats. I'll say it to the Republicans as well. So here we are, The Guardian, one of the most left-wing pieces of crap in the Western world. And, of course, they're interviewing Mitch McConnell, who is an utter irrelevancy at this point. Trump's second presidency is, quote, most dangerous period, unquote, since Second World War, Mitch McConnell says. Former Senate leader likens administration's fixation with tariffs to isolationist policies of the U.S. in the 1930s. Donald Trump is not an isolationist. The isolationists are furious with Donald Trump. The world during Donald Trump's second presidency, they write, has entered a period of danger with certain similarities to the 30s. There are similarities to the 30s, but in the Democrat Party and with the isolationists, not with Donald Trump. Anyway, according to Mitch McConnell, McConnell made the comments primarily in reference to tariffs and foreign affairs. A wide-ranging interview with the Lexington Herald leader, I guess, not The Guardian, published on Wednesday as he prepares to enter his final year in office. Calling it the most dangerous period since World War II, he was openly critical of the Trump administration's fixation with terror, But while decrying the lack of U.S. preparedness to confront authoritarian regimes abroad, the 83-year-old McConnell, a senator since 1985 and leader of Republicans in the chamber for a record 18 years until he stood down earlier this year, then announced his upcoming retirement, did not discuss the Trump administration's own moves toward authoritarianism. And so the Guardian's upset about that. Come on, Mitch, you can do better than this. You can do better than this. You know, folks, as I go through this article, I find it so disgusting that I'm not going to go through any more of it with you. I thought it might be interesting. It's not interesting. It's not interesting. I have the good common sense to tell you that. Yasemin Ansari, not I'm sorry, Ansari, Yasemin Ansari, just like Tim Kaine, she has the stupidity or the hubris to state out loud what we already knew, but you weren't supposed to talk about. Now, who is she? She's a Democrat from Arizona. She's outside an ICE detention center in Eloy, Arizona on Saturday. I want you to listen to this. Cut 4, go.
I just came out of the Eloy Detention Center. It's August 30th. This was my second official visit to Eloy. I was last here on May 29th and received a full tour of the detention center and spoke with many women here. The reason I came back today was because I have many constituents who are trapped inside Eloy, who we have been communicating with and have been hearing about the devastating conditions inside.
Devastating conditions inside, yet they don't want to leave. The hypocrisy is really incredible. That said, did you catch where she called these illegal aliens her constituents? Yes. They brought them here. They're foreigners. And those are now her constituents. This is what the Democrat Party believes. Number one, that they determine who has rights and what rights you have. Number two, that illegal aliens who they brought into the country are their constituents. I hope everybody's listening. But she wasn't done. Cut 5, go.
I didn't realize this was such a controversy until the right-wing media started attacking me for using the word. So I Googled the word constituent. The definition
So
of
it's the right-wing media, and she has to Google the word constituent to understand what it means. The right-wing media. She's a kook. A kook. Illegal aliens are not supposed to be anybody's constituents. They're supposed to be out of the country. Out of the country. That's federal law. Am I right, federal judges who are talking anonymously to NBC News? No, they don't believe that either, which is why they don't talk anonymously. Excuse me, they don't talk on the record and they talk anonymously. So here we have a nitwit. But she's out of the closet. She's telling the truth in this regard, that she views illegal aliens as her constituents. Because they make it possible to have the district that she has. And so she's in Congress serving illegal aliens. That's why they never voted to complete the wall, the Democrats. That's why they never complained to Biden about securing the border. These are their constituents. The Democrat Party is truly a party that's anti-American at this point. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Go ahead.
Was part of a community. Doesn't matter what their legal status is. If somebody
No, it doesn't matter at all. Of course not. We should get rid of all the federal immigration laws. That's right. Get rid of the border. No deportations. And of course, our country will survive, even though no society or country has ever survived in these circumstances. So what? She looked up the word constituency, and she's very gratified by what she found. Very gratified. She ought to look up the word illegal, don't you think, Mr. Producer? Maybe even look up the phrase illegal alien to see what that means. Or the word jackass, because she is one. Go ahead.
If somebody has a green card, if somebody is a U.S. citizen, if somebody lives in the community, I represent them. Constituent does not mean voter. I don't care if none of these individuals can vote for me. I don't give a I care about making sure that the United States government, with our taxpayer dollars...
shut up, you moron. Who has mashed potatoes for brains. They can all curse quite well, can't they? I don't really care. Doesn't she sound like a, what do they used to call these people? Doesn't she sound like from Southern California? A valley girl. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. I looked up the word constituent. They're a constituent. Somebody that lives in a community. They're a constituent. I represent these people. Yes. Actually, you know who she sounds like? Catarlson. Go to the top of cut 5, Mr. Producer. Go ahead.
I didn't realize this was such a controversy until the right-wing media started attacking me for using the word. So I Googled the word constituent.
Yeah.
The definition of constituent is somebody who is part of a community. Doesn't matter what their legal status is. If somebody
No,
is
actually, she doesn't. She doesn't really, does she? But she does sound like a Valley girl to me. So, as far as she's concerned, an illegal alien is no different than an American citizen. Even if the illegal alien just stepped into the country 14 seconds ago. If they're in her district, she represents them. That's what she just said. Go ahead.
somebody has a green card.
Shut up, you idiot. You should be expelled. You should be expelled, along with that idiot Tlaib on Monday, who's hanging out with terrorist-supporting goons and thugs. Come to think of it, she's one of them. The Democrat Party is a disgrace. A disgrace. It has none resemblance to the party 50 years ago, 25 years ago. None. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. Wow. This from the New York Post. New York Post. Here's what FBI agents took from John Bolton's house in the raid and what charges he could face, according to Caitlin Dumbos. Federal agents seized 3 computers, 2 iPhones, and reams of documents from former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton's house during their August 22 raid, according to court records, which also revealed the 76-year-old could soon face charges that may land him in prison for more than a decade. The feds raid Bolton's Bethesda, Maryland home and Washington, D.C. office as part of an investigation into allegations that he snuck national security files out of the White House during President Trump's first term by emailing them to family members on a private server. High-ranking FBI officials told the Post at the time that would be outrageous. I literally hope this isn't true. In addition to the high-tech hardware, agents confiscated 2 USB drives, a hard drive, 4 boxes of printed daily activities, typed documents and folders labeled Trump 1 through 4, and a white binder labeled Statements and Reflections to Allied Strikes, according to an inventory made public Thursday. That's an awful lot of information to take with you, isn't it, Mr. Producer? At a minimum, it violates the Presidential Records Act, which is not a felony statute. But I believe he's being investigated for the Espionage Act, which is a very broad statute. And this is a ton of documents. The warrant also revealed that Bolton is being looked at for allegedly violating 2 sections of the Espionage Act of 1917. Forbidding unauthorized possession and removal of national defense information, and another law preventing hoarding of classified documents. If tried and convicted on all counts, they write, Bolton can face up to 25 years behind bars. The longtime diplomat has not been arrested or charged with a crime. Investigators shelved the case because the Biden administration, leaving current FBI Director Kash Patel to reopen the probe upon learning of its existence about a month after taking office in February, the officials said. Well, I can see why. Is he supposed to turn a blind eye to this? Now Trump's Justice Department is questioning whether the Biden's FBI's decision not to pursue the case against one of the most staunch Trump foreign policy critics was politically motivated. Yeah, I think you could say that. The Biden administration had probable cause to know that he had taken material that was detrimental to the national security of the United States. And by the way, it's not the first time. The book, where federal judge Royce Lamberth, he had the in-camera ex-party review and said, yeah, this material is national security information and it can hurt the national security of the United States. And Biden's regime made no effort to retrieve the information, a senior FBI official told the Post. That was a friendly administration to Bolton. The official further alleged they kept bashing Trump the entire time for weaponizing law enforcement, and they, by politically stopping a righteous investigation, are the ones who weaponize law enforcement. Of course, ironically, they're weaponizing law enforcement for, among other things, the former president and documents. Bolton has since returned to his home and maintained an active presence on Twitter, X, attacking the president's maneuvers on the world stage. The White House, he goes on. What do you think of that, folks? Now, do you think the media will apologize for its misleading coverage, just claiming this is retribution? Because this is a hell of a lot more than retribution. The answer is no, because the media are never wrong. And yet they lie. They lie. The president's going to formally order renaming of Department of Defense to the Department of War. By the way, it used to be the Department of War. Decades ago. I'll sign an executive order tomorrow, restoring the Department of War name as a secondary title for the Department of Defense. The order will instruct Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to propose legislation. I believe I read that Senator Mike Lee is already on top of this. That he's already, I believe there was a House member too, but in any event, Mike Lee is already on top of this. Hegseth will also be permitted to use the title Secretary of War in official correspondence and public communications. Oh, I think the isolationists, I think their heads are going to collectively explode, don't you, Mr. Producer? Oh, my goodness. I wouldn't want to be around that mess. Although there's not much to explode given the very minimal brain material. The War Department was known as such from, 1789 to 1947. When the Army and the Air Force departments were split by an act of Congress to form the National Military Executive with the already existing Navy Department. So they got rid of the name. Department of War. It was always the Department of War. But now it'll be changed back. But you watch, there'll be a handful of Republicans who vote no. Probably Thomas Massey. Marjorie Taylor Greene, probably. Just my guess. A few other reprobates. You'll have... can't remember half of them anymore. My brain is actually working for me. We'll be right back. Rand Paul. That's right, Rand Paul. I'll be right back. When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk. Wireless worth bragging about.
Mark Levin on the front line of liberty. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
You know, we love Ted Cruz on this program. We certainly do. as the Right Scoop notes, and he loves, Scott Jennings, boy. Senator Ted Cruz just called out Tucker Carlson over a guest who claimed he saw a Palestinian boy run into a wall of bullets being fired by the IDF. Turns out not to be true at all. You know, I'm so sick of this Jew hatred and anti-Semitism from Carlson, from Green, from Bannon, from Owens, and the other reprobates. I am so sick and tired of it. And I'm sick and tired of seeing these people invited to conservative events as if they're conservatives when they should be thrown out of conservatism. They can have their own little cabal and their own little party. And I'm sick and tired of them stabbing the president in the back and stabbing our country in the back. And I'm sick and tired of entrails, media entrails like Mediaite and others, the Daily Bestiality, the Huffington Compost, and their ilk, giving these people attention and promotion in order to try and smear Mr. and Mrs. America. I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with the conspiracy theories about 9/11. I am fed up with the embrace of Hitler against Churchill, with the rewriting of World War II and the Greatest Generation. I'm sick of it. And it's time that more people speak out loudly and condemn these bastards, grifters and crooks among them. Here's what Ted wrote. Tucker Carlson had this guy, Tony Aguilar, on his show. Aguilar claimed, with Tucker nodding solemnly, which is what he does, that Israel murdered a little Palestinian boy. It turns out the boy is alive and well. It was used to undermine Trump's Gaza policy. Will Tucker apologize? With all due respect, who gives a crap if he apologizes or not? Why don't they play the video of August 7th, 40-some minutes? The confessed felon, crook, Bannon bloats the other day that Netanyahu talks about what happened on October 7th in order to avoid responsibility for the intelligence failure. How stupid is that? How sick is that? This hate, this bigotry, this anti-Semitism, it runs deep, deep. And it's revealing itself. It's revealing itself. They sound like Tlaib and Omar and Bernie Sanders, don't they? They sound like Mandani. Because they have a lot in common with them. That's just the truth. There's not enough senators and congressmen willing to stand up to this. A handful. There's not enough conservatives in talk radio willing to stand up to this. A handful. Not enough podcasters willing to stand up to this. Less than a handful. And yet they're invited to these events. So you can hear, quote unquote, both sides. Both sides. To Hitler? Both sides about lies, about the Jews killing Palestinians? Both sides? Seriously, folks. Seriously? Here's Jamie Raskin. Now, he knows a lot about Stalin because his father, in my view, was a Stalinist, the Institute for Policy Studies. A lot of scholars and intellectuals out there, think tankers, they know exactly what I'm talking about. This was a beehive, a central beehive, a pro-Soviet activity against the United States all throughout the Cold War. And this institute was co-founded by Raskin's father. Raskin's father. And so you can see the language he uses. He moves from the Third Reich to Stalin to dictator to authoritarian to fascist. He's got, a vocabulary of about 17 words. He's been chasing Donald Trump since Donald Trump ran for president the first time. He was on both impeachment committees. He was on judiciary when they were pushing criminal investigations, when they were subpoenaing the president and his family. He was behind, in part, the effort to have the president prevented from going on ballots in 2024. In fact, he's been behind or has his fingerprints on, or worse, even his DNA. Every effort at destroying our electoral system, our justice system, our legal system, in pursuit of Donald Trump. And now here he is. We have a whacked judge in Boston who just ruled that really what's going on with Harvard, you see, is that the Trump administration is on an ideological warpath against Harvard. It's not really about anti-Semitism. That's a figment of their imagination. Oh, it's bad, she says, but don't get me wrong. But their primary reason is it's ideological. Therefore, they have to give Harvard $2 billion. How do you like that, Mr. Producer? And then they wonder why they're overturned in one sentence by the Supreme Court majority as they whine and complain to NBC News. Utterly unethical. Completely unethical. But there he is, Jamie Raskin, who will not come on this program. Jamie Ratfink. Cut 5, go. Excuse me, cut 8, go.
Obviously, Trump has wanted to attack any kind of diversity or equity initiative at the colleges and universities and made common cause with the most right-wing forces in the country to try to...
No, not really. You mean Martin Luther King? Colorblind society? You mean one man, one vote, meaning each person is to be viewed at in their own merit and nothing else? Is that what you mean, jackass? Go ahead.
If there were any race discrimination or gender discrimination going on.
Now, if there's race or gender discrimination, that can be addressed under federal and state law. We're not talking about that. We're talking about DEI, which is, in effect, race discrimination that is being institutionalized by the left and the Democrats and being removed by President Trump. Go ahead.
People should bring those as lawsuits, but otherwise the federal government should back off and allow the colleges and universities to govern themselves.
No, we're not going to back off. Trump shouldn't back off. These are taxpayer-financed institutions that are the wholly owned ideological subsidiary of the Democrat Party, the Marxists and the Islamists. And what Donald Trump is doing is righteous. Absolutely righteous. Taking them on. And taking crap from somebody like Raskin. Now, if Raskin is defending these colleges and universities, you better believe that they are Marxist-Stalinist. You better believe that they're Islamists. You better believe they're anti-Semitic because he's a self-hating Jew, in my humble opinion. That's correct. This isn't about micromanaging admission processes or micromanaging the coursework at Harvard. It's about exposing it. It's about real academic freedom. There is no academic freedom on these college campuses, none. There's no free speech on these college campuses unless you want to get beaten to a pulp. There's almost nobody other than hardcore lefties and Democrats who speak at commencement exercises. And Raskin likes it that way. Because Marxists want ideological purity. They want obedience. They want compliance. And that's what they get from these colleges and universities. Especially Harvard and its ilk. So how dare you question them? How dare you challenge them? A radical left-wing federal judge insists that you and I, the federal taxpayer, pay for Harvard. You hear what I'm saying? A judge. And then they wonder why there's a one-sentence decision by this majority on the court, the Supreme Court, that says reversed, reversed, reversed. Why don't they explain themselves? Oh, go to hell. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
When was the last time you bragged about your wireless company? Like, did you know my wireless company gave away 1,000 American flags to deserving vets and forgave $10 million in veteran debt? Did you know my wireless company raised almost $500,000 to help prevent veteran suicide? In other words, when your wireless company is Pure Talk, there's a whole lot to brag about. You can even brag about the coverage you get with Pure Talk, a 5G network that is insanely fast, dependable, and secure. And you can definitely brag about how much money you save with Pure Talk. Unlimited talk, text, plenty of data. Just $25 a month, saving the average family over $1,000 a year. It's time to switch to my favorite wireless company, Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin and save an additional 50% off your first month. Again, puretalk.com/LEVIN. Make the switch today. Pure Talk, wireless worth bragging about. The show flies by, doesn't it? Does to me, anyway. Well, there's still a ton more. We only have an hour left. That's not going to be enough. But we'll do our best. For God and country. That's right, Tim Kaine. God. Benjamin Netanyahu, who's hated by the Islamists, the Marxists, and the isolationists, just as the president is. He put out a message today, and it said in part the following. Cut 10, Mr. Producer, go.
Israel has let in more than 2 million tons of aid into Gaza. That's 1 ton of aid per person. And by the way, Hamas stole much of it. And Israel has sent millions of text and phone messages to Palestinian civilians, urging them to get out of harm's way. Hamas shoots these civilians when they try to leave. And they do so in order to use the civilian population as human shields. That's a war crime. These arrest warrants and the false charges against Israel are a travesty of justice. And that's why President Trump and Secretary Rubio have issued sanctions on Karim Khan and the other corrupt ICC officials for their malign activities. Thank you, America, for holding the ICC accountable. Because if Israel is prevented from fighting terrorism, no democracy is safe.
It's true. And we're going to have a great show Saturday and Sunday, but Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, brand new show. I really want you to watch this. And we get into what the Prime Minister is talking about. We also get into the effort by our president to protect the people in these cities who are overwhelmingly Democrat, overwhelmingly minority. They're one-party cities, and how the one party that controls the mayors and the city councils and all the rest refuses to protect them. I believe as much information needs to get out as possible to as many people as possible to turn these things around. Otherwise, they're not going to be turned around. Now, in hour 3 of the program, we're going to get into this little bit of this hearing with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Boy, do they hate him. You know what? They don't hate him because of his views of medicine and science and so forth. They hate him because he's a Democrat who ran as an independent, and then he joined Donald Trump. His campaign supported him and urged his supporters to vote for him and helped him win the presidency. A Kennedy doesn't do that. A Kennedy is not allowed to do that, especially Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That's why they hate him. Not about vaccines and this, that, and the color of M&Ms and all the rest of it. No. They hate him because he rejects them. They hate him because he rejects them. They hate people the most who they believe are supposed to be on the plantation, like a Kennedy. No Kennedy. Or for that matter, no black person, no Hispanic person, no Asian person, no gay person, no woman. You're not supposed to leave the Democrat Party, period, or you're going to be trashed. It's that simple. You got to be made an example out of. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Have I ever had Trey Gowdy on this show, Mr. Producer? I don't believe so. Well, they've asked if he can come on to have a brief discussion, and I said that, why not? Why not? And so Trey will be here. His book is The Color of Death. It's a novel. And it appeared on the New York Times bestseller list number 2, so that's pretty good. Novels are very competitive. Very competitive. I've never written a novel. Maybe I should give it a shot one of these days, but I'll stick with nonfiction for now. Robert Kennedy Jr. at a hearing today. Listen to this guy, Mark Warner. There's something wrong with Mark Warner. But nonetheless, cut 11, go.
Do you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID?
I don't know how many died.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
All right, let's stop. This is a trick question because nobody really knows. We discussed this at the time, how the counts were different, how they were adding in different people. Remember all that, Mr. Producer, and all the crap I took for pointing that out? I was one of the earliest ones to point it out. We don't really know because some hospitals were putting down COVID deaths that weren't COVID deaths. And the definition was ambiguous. It wasn't accurate. Go ahead.
How many Americans died from COVID?
I don't think anybody knows that because there was so much data chaos coming out of the CDC, and there were so many perverse incentives. And these are modeled.
You don't know the answer of how many Americans died from COVID. This is the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Do you think the vaccine did anything to prevent additional deaths?
Again, I would like to see the data and talk about the data.
You have had this job for 8 months, and you don't know the data about whether the vaccine saved lives?
That's the problem, is that they didn't have the data. The data by the Biden administration absolutely dismal.
So who is politicizing? You're saying the Biden administration politicized all the data? Go back to what Senator Cantwell just said.
They fired Dr. Krauss.
Trump Surgeon General.
They fired Dr. Krauss. They fired all the people who questioned the orthodoxy.
Mm-hmm. Then we got this guy, Wyden, who's a freak show all in himself from Oregon. He's about 48 feet tall. But he's a hardcore lefty. Hardcore. Cut 14, go.
I hope you will tell the American people how many preventable child deaths are an acceptable sacrifice for enacting an agenda that I think is fundamentally cruel and defies common sense. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Do I get a reply? Or, Senator, you've sat in that chair for how long? 20, 25 years, while the chronic disease in our children went up to 76%. And you said nothing. You never asked the question why it's happening. Why is this happening? Today, for the first time in 20 years, we learned that infant mortality has increased in our country. It's not because I came in here. It's because of what happened during the Biden administration that we're going to end.
Mm-hmm. And the senator really had no response to this. He really had no response to this. What annoyed me the most was they wouldn't let him finish answers. They were lecturing him, yelling at him, and calling him names. Because they're furious that Donald Trump won, and they're furious that he works for Donald Trump in his cabinet. Here's Bernie Sanders, Stalinist pig. Cut 17, go.
By the way, just for the record,
Every single Republican, I don't mean to be political here, Mr. Chairman, has received PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. Are they all corrupt as well?
And I'm telling you, the American Heart Association has been co-opted by the food
Everybody
industry.
but you, Senator. But you know what? When you ran for president, we have a corrupt campaign finance system. Maybe you'll agree with me on that. Okay, you were already president. You got a billionaire behind it.
All right, let me cut to the chase here. I have a question for you, Bernie, the Red. I'll ask it generally because we can't get your ass on this program either. Do you use medicine that's been produced by the pharmaceutical companies? Do you? Do you? Do you have access to medicine produced by the pharmaceutical companies? You see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not into this Marxist claptrap. I hear it from some conservatives who are more nationalists than anything else. Some of them are on TV. Some of them are on radio. Big pharma, big pharma. I hear it even in the administration. If there are pricing issues, let's deal with it and so forth and so on. But I have a simple question from Bernie. Do you use the medicine that they develop at enormous costs? And I can tell you why it costs more in the United States than it does overseas. I've talked about it for a quarter of a century. Because most of the medicines are developed in the United States. Most of the efforts to develop medicines by these companies fail. That's why you need significant amount of capital to try and develop them, because most of the time they fail. The overwhelming number of times they fail. And so the companies have to make up their costs, or they're going to cease to be in business, and you're not going to have medicines. It's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. So why is it cheaper in other countries? I'll tell you why it's cheaper in other countries. Because they don't have to develop it. They steal the patents. They steal the patents. And they make the medicines for nothing. Nothing. Or they threaten to do that, and the pharmaceutical companies have to buckle. Now, that's what we should be dealing with, in my humble opinion. That's what we should be dealing with. Go ahead.
$1,000 from people, not from the industry, people in it, as I did, from individuals. You corrupt. President Trump got $3 million. Every Republican got corporate PAC money for the pharmaceutical industry. Democrats as well.
How much money did you get from Islamists and Marxists? Individuals or otherwise? How much? A hell of a lot. From Marxists and Islamists who want to destroy our country. How much money did you get from them, Bernie? You know, this is where we conservatives fail. We play defense. So we're supposed to be scared to, how much money did you get from pharmaceutical companies? Well, I don't know, 2 million, 3 million, whatever. How much money did you get from Marxists and Islamists? What's that have to do with everything? Anything. Has to do with everything. Because they want to destroy our country. And so I have to assume so do you. Go ahead.
Everybody is corrupt, but you? Is that what we're looking at? I don't think so. And I think the issue now...
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, I think you do know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The issue is every time anyone disagrees with you...
Are you saying the pharmaceutical industry was supporting my presidential campaign?
No, by the way, is insane. They clearly were not. Go ahead.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the pharmaceutical industry is a greedy institution which is charging us the highest prices.
He thinks everybody is greedy except government. Elon Musk and his crowd demonstrated how greedy government is, all the robber barons in government. And the difference is, of course, you have no choice but to pay your taxes or you're going to wind up in federal prison. It's an amazing thing. He's a multimillionaire, which is why he doesn't criticize any more millionaires and billionaires, just billionaires. It's amazing. He doesn't criticize Omar, who we spent time on last night, who's gone from nearly penniless, she and her husband, to worth between $6 and $30 million just by getting elected off. Isn't that amazing? What do you think about that, Bernie? Bernie, multimillionaire with multiple properties. What do you think about that? I don't know about you, but what costs me the most is government. At all level. Property taxes, sales taxes, income taxes again, death taxes so your family can't keep what you already earned and pay taxes on. Makes drug companies look like Robin Hood, doesn't it? We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
It's a pleasure to have on I think for the first time, I could be wrong, I think so. Trey Gowdy, how are you, Trey Gowdy?
I am doing great, Counselor. You and I have something in common with only one word changed.
What?
So Sean calls you the great one, and he calls me the average one. So it's only one word. Only one word different.
It's all right. My wife calls me the great big one, meaning stomach. So there you go. You know, Trey, I'm going to tell you something. I've read this book, The Color of Death. I don't know how to write a novel. I can't write a novel. It is a huge accomplishment. It is a huge success. It's tough to write a novel, isn't it?
It is, Mark, but I mean, let's be honest. You have written more books than I have read. There's nothing you cannot do. It is a completely different genre, but you were a DOJ prosecutor. I mean, this story has been in my head for a decade. I just am thankful that Suzanne Scott, gave me the confidence and kind of forced me to have the courage to do it. Nonfiction, what you do can be fact checked. And which is why it takes you years probably to write your books, and they're so well researched. I mean, the beauty of fiction is you can make it up, but you're also going to be critiqued differently. So it's different. I wasn't sure I could pull it off. I'm not sure I did pull it off, but it was a ton of fun to do. Well, thank you.
You know what? I watch these shows at night, Trey Gowdy, Forensic Files.
Yes, sir.
And there you are. No, and you're damn good at it. And I'm watching you, and I'm thinking to myself, my God, I wouldn't want this guy prosecuting me. You were a scary-ass prosecutor, weren't you?
Well, I had good facts, and you and I both know good facts make good lawyers. First of all, you're innocent, so I would never
I hope so.
I can tell by looking at you, you're innocent. I really put my heart into that. I was actually overheard my wife talking to my daughter today. My daughter is a public defender. And she said that Daddy used to fake cry in jury trials because that's what they say at the courthouse. And my wife said, I'm not saying he's above that, but he really put his heart and soul into representing those homicide victims. So it would not surprise me if it was genuine. And you know what it's like. You work at DOJ. I mean, they look to you to provide the only justice they're going to get. Is an awesome, incredible responsibility.
Mm-hmm. So why this story? Why did you focus on this story?
Truth be told, Mark, all fiction has a grain of truth to it. I prosecuted a case involving a beautiful young mom who was killed in a beauty salon. Every other facet of the book is different. The killer is different. The suspects, all of it I changed. But it was a way for me to honor Dana Satterfield, and it took us a decade to solve her case. I remember to this day where I was when my sheriff called me and said, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "No, but I can." And he said, "We think we have solved Dana's murder." It had been a decade that her parents and children were waiting. And it wound up being a 17-year-old high school student that did it. And so that was kind of how can I honor crime victims without making the family relive the crime? I actually don't watch true crime. I don't watch the documentaries. I can't watch. I can watch made up stuff, but I can't watch it if I think it really happened to someone.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're an excellent analyst of the law. You're an excellent analyst of federal and state law. You're very articulate. just tell me, does this come from training as a lawyer and a prosecutor? Is this something that you always kind of had?
Well, if my English teachers are listening, they would be jumping out right now to answer that question for you. I clerked for a federal judge, and I did not know how to type, and I did not really know how to write. And I clerked for him for 2 years, and I had to write a redistricting and reapportionment opinion for him, several hundred pages. So I had to learn to type. And I think if you're a good public speaker, if you're good with closing arguments and opening statements, you have to be a good writer, because I wrote all of my stuff. Even when I was in Congress, for better or worse, every word that came out of my mouth, I wrote. I can't, I'm sure you have umpteen million chances to do public speaking. I can't put my heart into something. Yeah. You could. You probably don't have the time. I could not put emotion into something somebody else wrote. So I like to write. It's my favorite thing of all the things I do. You wear a ton of hats. You're television, radio, you're a brilliant legal mind, you're a prolific author. I don't know if writing is number one for you, but it is my favorite thing to do.
And I think for me too, and I'm guessing for you, because it's solitary, and that's actually a good thing. Without a lot of interruption, you sit down, you think things through, and it really takes all your brain cells, doesn't it? It really takes a comprehensive thought process to come up. And with a novel, I would even think more. So you've written a best-selling novel, you've written a best-selling nonfiction. Which was harder?
Oh, by far. I think by far the fiction, because you know, the nonfiction. I kind of got talked into. How do you write a question? People. I'm sure they ask you. How do you cross-examine someone? So I said, well, I'll write a book for lay people on cross-examination. And then actually my wife, in the parking lot of a grocery store, they were putting pressure on me to write another self-help book. And I thought, well, I can write a book about how to gain 10 pounds, but what else do I know? And she said, well, why don't you tell people why you left the courtroom? How do you make major decisions in life? You left a job you loved to run for Congress, which you didn't enjoy. Tell them about the mistakes you made. So those just flowed. This one, my great fear is that people would have figured out the killer in the first couple of pages, and they would have said, look, you're the worst writer, I've ever read, and I had this thing figured out. So some people are motivated by a desire for success. I am motivated by a fear of failure. Compliments, I don't want to say they go one in ear and out the other, but what motivates me is I don't want people to think I failed.
That is really interesting. I think I'm similar in that respect. I think a lot of people are too. Rush used to talk about the fact he was fired 7 times and failed, and wanted to prove that it was them, not him, and that he succeeded. Don't hang up. I have a hard break. We want to keep our friend Trey Gowdy. I'm fascinated. He and I have never spoken that I'm aware of, and that's my fault, not his. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're here with Trey Gowdy, his New York Times best-selling novel, The Color of Death. This is a great book. You can get it at Amazon.com, any major bookstore. Let's dig into this a little bit, Trey. So you have this assistant DA, Colm Truesdale, yes, and all hell kind of breaks loose in his life. He's depressed. He's down and out. He loses his wife and his daughter. And then this horrific crime takes place. And then what happens?
I think he realizes that the only life he has left is his professional life. Every cut that life can give you, he has suffered. I can't imagine losing a child, Mark, and I haven't. But I know people who have, and I tried to imagine what's bottom. Bottom is losing the 2 things you love the most, and so you have a choice. You can, there's a slight difference between wanting to die and just being apathetic about whether you live. And he's apathetic about whether he lives, but he's really good in court. And so that's his calling. And I think part of him sees his wife when he sees this young lady laying on the floor of a beauty salon, killed in really a savage way, a subhuman way. And, I think, God gives us gifts, and he had a gift for being a good prosecutor. And the question was whether that was enough to sustain him.
I get the impression from this book for sure, and from comments you make from time to time, that you're a man of deep faith. Is that correct?
It is, but it is complicated because I had to leave the courtroom because it was ruining my faith, just to be really candid with you. I never wanted to run for Congress. I never looked in the mirror and saw a member of the House. I was running away from the courthouse. We had 3 children under the age of 11 killed in a 1-week murder in a 1-week time period. And, there's an old prophet named Habakkuk in the Old Testament who literally would ask God, how can you let this happen? And I found myself asking God that a lot. How can you possibly let this happen? So my wife and my mom sat me down and said, you have to go do something else. I had no desire to be in Congress, and that probably showed at times. But my love was the courtroom, but it was ruining my faith, Mark, to be honest with you.
Well, that is a very important statement because, in my faith, a lot of people began questioning God during and after the Holocaust. How could God let this sort of thing happen? And I suppose anybody who faces these horrendous things, it questions their faith, and ultimately they find their faith. Did you find your faith?
Yes, sir. It's kind of a line from The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, where the Edmond Dantes tells the priest, he says, I don't believe in God, but the priest says, that's okay, he believes in you. Mm-hmm. It's hard to be upset or question someone who doesn't exist, is what I keep telling myself. That clearly he exists because you're asking him questions. What's really bad is when you stop asking him questions, Trey. And so it's okay to do like the prophet Habakkuk. It's okay. People in the New Testament would ask God to change his mind. It's okay to do that. It's okay to wonder why. How could you let this happen? I think what I fear is when the questions stop because I just give up and I don't care anymore. And I've not reached that point. My wife is really the model for the light in this book, a waitress named Belle. Because my wife is a devoutly spiritual person and authentically so, Mark, not fake. I mean, she doesn't talk about it. She just shows you by the way she treats other people. So I wanted there to be light, but the light is not the prosecutor. The light is, but you can tell in the book he's drawn to her, and not in a romantic way, because she has something he doesn't, and he wants it, and he needs it. And if Miss Scott tells me to write books 2 and 3, I already have them mapped out in my head how this ends. But we need light. Light will win. It's just a question of how much darkness. You mentioned the Holocaust. I cannot fathom going through something like that and maintaining. Some people are drawn closer to their faith in times like that, and then for others of us, we just say, God, what did I do? What did I do to deserve this?
Mm-hmm. Suzanne Scott is fantastic. Isn't she the CEO of Fox News? She's just terrific. Yes, yeah.
Oh,
I mean, there are CEOs who are tough and rude. And she's the complete opposite, isn't she?
She is the reason I wrote the book. I was in her office talking about a real case in South Carolina, Alex Murdoch, and she said, would you have any interest in writing fiction? I mean, they got a stable full of thoroughbreds at Fox. You know that. Mm-hmm. Mark, you're one of them. I mean, they got thoroughbreds. Why are you asking a pack mule to write a fiction book? But But she said, take a chance on it. And I wanted to do a good job for her. Again, I didn't want to fail. It is not, I mean, some people want, I mean, you come in my office right now, and I hope one day you'll visit me in Spartanburg. You can't tell what I did for a living. You can't tell where I went to school. I have a bust of Abraham Lincoln, and that's about it. And a picture of John Radcliffe. That's about all I have in my office. but
well, they're close.
And I'm about to get rid of the picture of Radcliffe because he beat me in golf, so I'm going to take that down. But I fear failure, and I didn't want to fail her. So I really put my heart and soul in the book.
Well, you're a very accomplished individual. I can tell you my audience here admires you. You're the number one host on Sunday evenings, and there's a reason for that. You're very good at what you do. And I just want to thank you, and I do look forward to meeting you one of these days, if I ever get out of my bunker. And God bless you, my friend. Congratulations. Say it again.
You and I have so many friends in common. I mean, when I told Kevin McCarthy I was coming on your show, he just went on and on and on about you.
Well, we got to get to know each other. It's my fault. It's not your fault.
I get to watch you every Sunday night.
Yeah, that's not the same thing.
It's not the same. I would love it because Kevin and Tim Scott have both been on your show, and they speak so glowingly of you, and all your colleagues at Fox feel the same way. And
likewise.
I don't know. When I hear Sean call you the great one, I just say, well, he's out of my league. He's out of my league.
And you're very endearing, too. But, when I'm on TV, I'm pissed off usually. So that's not the entire Mark Levin. But, Trey Gowdy, I want to thank you. Class act. I really enjoyed this very, very much. I want to encourage you folks, get the book, The Color of Death. You're going to love this book by Trey Gowdy. God bless you, brother.
God bless you too, Morgan. You write a fiction book. I want you to do that.
I'm not able to. Please. I'm not capable of it. All right. Take care, man. All right.
God bless you. Yes, sir.
Bye-bye. Man, I like this man a lot. Mr. Producer. Yeah. I don't think he and I have ever had a conversation. I don't think we have. But we will now, and more often. And the book is great, by the way. I get these books in advance to go through, and I don't really read novels, but I read about 2/3 of this. I'm not done because I'm reading a lot of books at the same time, and I'm obviously promoting my own. But very, very impressive. To do a novel. I remember Bill Buckley. He used to write fiction and nonfiction. He wrote very good books. But he could write a novel in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. I can't do that sort of thing. First of all, I've got too much going on. But that's what he used to do. That's what he used to do. All right, Mr. Producer, what am I doing here? Oh, yeah, our buddies at American Finance. Here we are. It was interesting to me in that interview in particular how forthcoming he was about his life. Mr. Producer? What his faith, why he decided to run, how he saw such horrible things as a prosecutor. It was hard to live with him. And he was questioning his faith and so forth, and his wife. I believe he said his mother as well. Told him it's time to do something else. He didn't have to tell us all that, but he did. And we're all better for it. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's go to Mike, Maynard, Iowa, the great KXEL. Mike, how are you, sir?
Mark, I'm still doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Go right ahead.
It's been a while since I've talked to you. I am the proud owner of an autographed copy of Mark R. Levin on Power, and I'm just going to do a brevity of a critique. I don't think you've ever heard this type of critique for your book. Your book is scaring the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Page 19.
Yeah.
The negative power need not be exercised or present itself in such aggressive forms. For modern Western societies, most of which are said to be advanced, enlightened, and democratic, negative power is more opaque, or what I call soft negative power. And it's scaring the hell out of me, Mark, because I think my beloved girlfriend, Beth, is using soft negative power on me.
That's possible. And it's all around us. It's ubiquitous. It's politically, it's in the party, the Democrat Party, but it's not alone there. It's in a number of our institutions in our culture that have been conquered, if you will. And that is what I call soft negative power. There is an alternative, and that is positive power, which is the next chapter. And although I think you're reading from chapter 1, I'm not sure. But chapter 3 is positive power. And there are things we can do, which is why I write the books the way that I write them, which is why I want people to get them and read them and pass on the information to our fellow citizens, because we have to inform ourselves and we have to be united around these principles and against these other policies. And that's the whole point of the book, Mike. I'd get a new girlfriend if I were you.
May I respectfully posit to you?
Yeah, of course. Go ahead.
I also want to talk about books and radio in general, because those are the two loves of my life, books and radio. And both of them have opened my eyes when I was a child to the world that is outside of my existence, my backyard, my neighborhood. And I respectfully posit to you, because we love you and we respect you, and Brush
We're actually about out of time. You got to get to it. Go ahead.
Okay. A book, AM Radio, Mark R. Levin. And it's a white book, and it's got
I never wrote a book called AM Radio, Mark R. Levin. Thank you for your call. I don't even know where we're going with this. Oh. I should write a book, AM Radio, Mark R. Levin? I'm not sure. There's a lot of AI books out there, ladies and gentlemen. Biographies on me, supposed autobiographies by me. But we're running out of time. David, Noonan, Georgia, XM Satellite. Go right ahead. By the way, Mike, didn't mean to be rude. That wasn't my intent, but we got to hurry. Go ahead. That would be like my first paragraph in AM Radio by Mark R. Levin. Don't you think, Mr. Producer? We're always in a hurry. Go ahead, David.
Hey, how are you tonight?
Good, thank you.
I'm just having trouble coping with all the people that don't understand to clean up the cities requires us to do certain things. I have friends that can't. They're going crazy saying everything that's going on is militarizing us as a nation. And all
right, I want you to take David's number, Mr. Call Screener. I want us to call him tomorrow, because this is a great point, and I want to address it. Very important. Mike, you can call back, too. We'll just have to take calls a little earlier. I want to thank all you folks, all you heroes out there. God bless you. You're all heroes to me. And I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.